Now on to my favorite subject. We've had all those stories of wars, sexting politicians, and battles with Republicans and Democrats. We're going to end the show with the news of the royal birth. The world has been watching and waiting for news of the next king, who seems to have united many people from around the world even before he was born.
To wild cheers, and with the glare of the media, William and Kate showed off their newborn baby boy. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge emerged from St. Mary's Hospital in London, presenting the world with the first glimpse of the prince who was third in line to the British throne.
Well, he's got a good pair of lungs on him, that's for sure. He's a big boy, he's quite heavy.
Very emotional, and it's such a special time. I think any parent, will probably sort of know what this feeling feels like.
For some of whom have spent long days and nights on benches outside the hospital, it was a sight they'd been waiting for.
So glad I came here today, and oh my God, the footage I have got, I'll treasure it for life, definitely. And I think the baby and Kate, and they were so relaxed and really beautiful. They just walked around, and we had a good time to see the baby and everything.
From the UK to the US, people sighed collective oohs and ahs.
It's exciting. We don't have anything like it here, so it's exciting for us, I think.
A day later, William and Kate officially announced the child's title, a name fit for a king, George Alexander Louis. The baby's royal address is His Royal Highness Prince George of Cambridge. As well as ruling the UK, Prince George could one day rule 15 other Commonwealth countries, a big responsibility for this tiny new baby.
And to talk more about the big announcement, we have Dee Dee, Dr. Bart Rossi, and we have Jackie Guzda. Always glad to talk about this. And it is nice to end the show. And I'm going to start off by saying that I lived in England, I lived in Australia, so I am a royal watcher, okay? I admit it. What does that say about my personality, Dr. Rossi?
You like the psychology of a fairy tale.
Is that what it is?
There you go. So.
Yeah. Okay. Do you still believe in these fairy tales too, Jackie, or no?
Didn't we fight a revolution against these people? What's the big deal? It's kind of, much ado about nothing.
Well, I think it's a big deal, and I think it's wrong and bad. So I don't have a problem with someone having a baby. A baby is always a joyous time. But to celebrate the monarchy, really?
Yeah.
Okay, and George, that was hilarious. They named him George. I mean, we kicked out King George for a reason. We don't believe in blue blood, and we don't believe in people being better than someone else. I like being a red-blooded American and being a patriot, and I don't like the monarchy. And I think the Brits are paying for them to have castles and jewels and all these lovely things.
How about the betting that took place? They had something like millions of dollars spent on the names, and I think they said something like $400 million on just like little knickknacks that are going to go into the economy. So I guess it was a good economic move to have a baby. But so you really think that I've got a problem with believing in fairy tales? I need to go back. I need to get my 15.
I don't think you have any problems, but I kind of share Dee Dee's sentiments on this. Although I think the psychology of this whole thing makes people intrigued about, there's a little baby. What's going to happen to this kid? He doesn't know that he's going to be a king. And what about the parents? And how do they handle themselves? And what's their personality all about? It's almost like it's something beyond them. And people kind of like that in a way. They like something that's a fairy tale and something that's outside of their own realm. So I think that's attractive in some ways, although I personally agree with what Dee Dee says in terms of a monarchy and why are we paying for this, Yeah.
Well, let me talk about escapism. I mean, I open up the segments by saying, we talk about these sexting politicians. We talk about, Republicans fighting with Democrats, and we can't get Obamacare, and everybody's fighting. And do you think that it's a little bit of an escape, and maybe it's not a bad escape?
I think it is an escape. That's a good point. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah.
So can I have my escape, Jackie?
You can have it. You can have it. And you know what? The people of England, let them enjoy their time. This is something in their culture, in their history, their heritage. So let them enjoy it.
I have no problem with them enjoying it. The thing I don't like is us celebrating it, acting like it's a big deal. And because I think it's a bad deal. I think what this is, it's just, this is because you were born into a certain family. You get things that other people don't. I mean, it's elitism, it's snobby. I don't like the message at all. I think it's a bad one. What about the poor kids? They have nothing in England and in America and in the world, and then they don't have to work. You know what they're going to do? They're going to take champagne bottles, they're going to smash them against boats and yachts, and then going to go sail on the yacht. Give me a break.
And we're seeing, of course, Prince, Kate right there on the screen just a moment ago. They even criticized her. Some of the media criticized her for her post-baby bump. Is that going too far? I just asked that same question about Chris Christie, and you're looking at me like, yeah, they were writing things up
That's
about.
nasty. Yeah, I thought she looked absolutely lovely in that dress. She had the bump. She wasn't trying to hide it. That's nature, so go with it. I completely agree with you on this. However,
There we go.
no. Look, let the British have their little fantasy along with you, Mia. Enjoy it. It's not hurting anybody.
This is one of those situations where I would not want to argue against Dee Dee on this. However, I think that the interest of it all kind of supersedes the logic that you present. And I think the psychology of it is kind of fascinating and interesting for these folks. And that's what makes it intriguing for us.
I'm going to come back to reality, okay? I am a journalist, okay? How many stories do you think we missed with sending all the reporters over there? Because I'm starting to wonder. They were sitting out there. I saw quite a few of my friends out there. They were there for 2 weeks, waiting and waiting. So how many stories did we miss? So I'm going to just ask what your thoughts are on that, Jackie.
Well, wasn't Bradley Manning on trial this week? We didn't hear a word about that, and that's a very important story.
Dee Dee, I know, I'm sure you.
I just don't get it. I don't like it. I didn't watch any of it. I'm just like, oh, I'll just be glad when this happens. I hope the baby's born quickly. And then, but we're still talking about it, obviously. But I just like being an American, and I like what we represent. And yeah, let the Brits have that. That's fine. But I just never want anything like that here. And I don't think we'll ever have it.
Yeah.
No crown on Obama.
We are going to turn our attention right now to British historian John Watkins, and he's going to share his insights with us about what this whole process means for the British and what it means for the monarchy. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can indeed. I've been listening to the conversation. It's been really interesting.
Well, unfortunately, it seems like we cannot hear John Watkins. We will try and come back to him in just a moment. We hear him now? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
There we go. So nice to hear from you. You are a British historian. If you can kind of give us like a guideline of what this means for the monarchy.
Well, the monarchy is a hereditary institution. It depends on biological accident in a sense. The person who becomes king is the person lucky enough to have been born in the direct bloodline. So this now carries the succession out in a clear male line primogeniture line for 3 generations.
And let's talk about some of the traditions we saw. We saw the posting of the baby on that billboard.
Right,
Talk to me about that and some of these traditions and how far back they go.
Well, some of those go back very far indeed. I mean, certainly back to the end of the 17th century, if not before. There was a tremendous concern about the proof of the baby's legitimacy. That goes back to an incident that happened at the end of the 17th century in the so-called Glorious Revolution of 1688-89, when a Catholic king of England was expected to die before giving birth to a Catholic heir. It was assumed that his Protestant daughters from a previous marriage would then succeed him to the throne and become queens of England. That didn't happen. He married a second time, married a Catholic woman he had himself converted, and indeed a boy was born. There is no real evidence that this child was anything other than the legitimate son of James II, but the English Protestant establishment could not live with that fact. So they spread the rumor immediately that the baby, I kid you not, had been smuggled in a warming pan. You know what that is, right? A bed warmer. It's a pot on the end of a stick that you fill with coals to rub in the bed before you get into it. The story was that's how the baby got there and that the baby was a fraud. So ever since then, there have been traditions like the Home Secretary was supposed to attend the birth. Typically, royal births were very, very public events.
Well, those are certainly some very interesting insights there. I want to also talk about the history of this name and what you thought about the name. Of course, everybody was betting about what this baby's name was, and millions of dollars were spent on this. You like King George?
Well, they weren't going to name him Horte, were they?
So, I don't think so.
I voted for George. The royal family is basically down to a handful of names. If a king has left a bad record, that name will not be used. I'm willing to bet you that for the next several centuries out, there will not be a King John. King John's reign was disastrous. King Stephen's reign ended in civil war. There will probably not be another King James because the last one, James II, converted to Catholicism. So
that's interesting.
We keep tainting names. Edward VIII abdicated the throne. Would you want to take the risk of naming the next King of England Edward?
Ah, very interesting. How important was it to have a male versus a female? If you can address that, John.
Okay, well, this is a really hot question at the moment because the Act of Succession from 1701 is in a process of revision. Now, that act provided for male line primogeniture, meaning that the oldest boy of the reigning monarch would become the next king. Daughters could only come to the throne if there had been no males. Make sense?
No.
A law was proposed in the Commonwealth meeting in Perth, Australia in 2010 to change the laws of succession to allow absolute primogeniture, meaning the person who will be the heir will be the firstborn regardless of gender.
Well,
that
John,
is now going through a series of ratifications, but it must be accepted not only by the United Kingdom, but by all 16 Commonwealth realms. Canada,
well, John, I got to tell you, we got a resounding no on that law of succession from Dee Dee here and Jackie. They're shaking their heads.
Also here too. I don't
another
like
caste system, another class system. That's what the problem is with this. No one's better than another person for blood. From blood, it's
especially
ridiculous.
male versus female. I mean,
yeah, and then there's that,
aren't we
right?
past that already?
But I think the English understand that. They're just enjoying their history.
The problem is, even if we take away the impediment of gender, the impediment of religion is still there. Under current British law, the sovereign must not be Roman Catholic. And it is named by religion in the Act of Succession. And indeed, at the Perth Conference in Australia, everyone was assured that the change in gender would not affect the prohibition of religion. Now, what does that mean in a country where there are more Catholics attending Mass on Sunday than there are Protestants going to services? Indeed, in a country where the most practiced religion is Islam.
John, very quick question. Why does the Queen get to name the baby? Very quickly.
The sovereign has all kinds of prerogatives and advantages in this situation. The Queen has to approve of a lot of things, including who people marry in the royal family.
Okay, listen, thank you so much for that history lesson on the British monarchy. Thoughts on the Queen naming the baby?
Oh my goodness, who cares? It's not important.
I think she named him after George W. Bush, right? No, I'm
kidding. There you go.
No, but King George, that was the king we kicked out, George.
Right.
So I thought it was humorous, but whatever.
Well, listen, we certainly congratulate the royal family and especially William and Kate. That's all we have time for today, so we'll give the royal wave goodbye, everybody. I'm Mia Toschi. Have a great week. We'll see you back here on Fresh Outlook next week.